Hello and welcome to I Watched It With My Wife, Documentary Edition.
Ooh.
This is the podcast where my wife Sarah and I watch documentaries and docuseries and review the episodes. This week we're watching episode 3 of the Netflix documentary This Is A Robbery about the art heist at the Elizabeth Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. This episode looks at the mob ties in Boston, which is a lot, and looks at the two mobs that really ran the city in 1990 when the heist happened, the Irish mob and the Italian mob. Looks at the potential they would have had to commit the robbery, the reasons why, possible motives, and who was probably behind it. So we get to meet a lot of mobsters in this one, or at least get introduced to them. Most of them are dead, but there's Vincent Ferrara, who's trying to break away from the patriarchal crime family. There's Bobby Donati, who's with Vincent Ferrara and trying to get him out of prison, from what we understand. There's Miles Connor, who we've met before. He has a connection to Donati as well. There's Billy Long. What was his last name? Billy something. Forgot his name. Billy Word. I looked it up.
With the W, Wentworth or Worthright or something.
Oh, come on. Why can't it take forever now?
Something like that.
Well, Billy Youngworth. He was connected to Miles Connor's storage unit where he kept a lot of the art he stole. And then there's a bunch of other people connected, including Bobby Garante, George Reisfelder, David Turner, bunch of names, bunch of mobsters. All of these guys are connected to the Italian mob because they did a very short piece basically telling you that the Irish mob had nothing to do with it. So, Sarah, tell us what you think of this episode.
Okay, so again, we're watching this documentary and I'm trying so hard not to fall asleep and I find myself nodding off. We're watching it during the day this time and I'm still nodding off. I really feel like something about this documentary is very sleepy to me. I find it interesting. I think it's the background music and the pace of it. I think it's very slow paced. The characters the mobsters are a little more lively, but most of the characters are a little flat.
Yes.
That they're interviewing, they're and maybe it's just for the documentary, for the seriousness. I'm sure these people have wonderful personalities, but in this documentary, they're a little more flat.
The journalists and the police officers are kind of flat. When you get to the witnesses
and the family members,
of the mobsters, it's a little bit more.
There's a lot more personality.
Yeah.
And I think the flat personalities, the sleepy music in the background, is just kind of what's making me. This is a good documentary. Oh my god, excuse me. I'm sorry. This is a good documentary to fall asleep to, I think. I think this would be like the great documentary to put on as background noise while you fall asleep, especially if you like crime documentaries. This is great.
Yeah, I can see that. The music is taking a toll on me too. Like the subject matter is great. I'm like paying attention while nodding off.
But I'm nodding off. So I don't know. I'm finding that a bit of a struggle. But I like the premise of it. I did say last week that I believed it was a mobster.
Yeah. It's Boston. Of course it was a mobster.
I believe that there was. Well, I mean, I also think that the police are involved too. Like the mobster knew a cop. And that's not a far-fetched theory.
Not in Boston.
It's happened.
Not in a lot of places,
and that's how they got.
Not in Boston.
And again, that's how they got the police uniforms. That's how they got kind of the scene contaminated in the beginning to make it harder to figure out who did it. I really believe that that the mob connections and things like that, and there's police connections, and yeah. Do I think it was the Denali guy, or do I think it was the Donati guy, and who was the other guy?
Which one?
The one whose sister-in-law was talking.
Reisfelder?
Yeah.
I'm 100% certain one of those guys was George Reisfelder.
You think so?
Between the fact that at least
She saw the picture
she saw one of the paintings
in his house.
in his
Yeah.
house, and it disappeared right after he died of a
Overdosed.
cocaine
Yeah.
overdose. As some mobsters were coming to his house, suddenly he's dead.
Yeah. I have questions about that too. Like,
Bobby
you know,
Donati, a year after the thing, everybody thinks he's connected to it. Next thing we know, he's found murdered and decapitated.
yeah.
So, and in the trunk of a car is where they found him. So
Yeah. Again, I firmly believe the main people involved are gone now.
Yeah. I was looking at the list of suspects.
And most of them are dead.
Most of them
anyway.
are dead. There's Miles Connor, who's still alive, but he was in jail and probably did not actually. He probably wasn't involved in this, but probably gave the idea to Donati because he knew him very well.
And he might know a little more than we think, but I don't think
knows
he
more
did
than he's letting on. So there's him, and then there's one guy named David Turner, who may have been one of the people dressed as cops working for Donati, or he may have trafficked the paintings afterwards. There's a hint possibly that could have happened. He was just recently released from prison in 2019. He was sentenced for a completely unrelated crime. And then there's the Billy Youngworth, who, he was being a caretaker to Miles Connor's stuff while he was in prison. He got into some trouble with the law and was trying to basically telling journalists at the Boston Herald, "Hey, I've got the stuff that was taken from the Gardner Museum," and he sent in some stuff, and they found one, and they hinted that some paint chips from a painting he sent that he claimed to have had were from a Rembrandt, but they were not from the particular Rembrandt he claimed they were from. So that, and then Miles Connor being released from prison led to that falling through, and he wound up going to prison. And now he's not cooperating with anything anymore.
Yeah,
since his
but
release.
I don't think this guy really has anything. I think that he just had things that were close enough that were going to look like they were going to let him off the hook, because I think he really believed Miles Connor had something to do with it. And he's like, if I can provide enough close evidence.
Yeah,
but
he shouldn't have said it was from the Gardner, because I have no doubt that Miles Connor stole a Rembrandt that he had on standby, and that's what to send in paint chips for. I think the guy knew it was a Rembrandt, didn't know which one it was.
Yeah, I really think the other guy is just using a little bit of information to get himself kind of freed up, but it didn't work out in his plan because there really wasn't enough evidence with it. So that's my theory on that. I still think it was a mobster. I think the mobster who did it is not alive anymore.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know if we're ever gonna know. Like part of me thinks that I don't think a lot of mobsters knew about this. A lot of people were involved. I think it was a very small group. Even some of the people that they're mentioning that may or may not have had an affiliation, I doubt it. Like I think if anything, there were 5 people tops involved in this.
I'm thinking 3.
3 to 5.
I'm thinking 3 in the initial stuff. Now, once they had it, it's they kind of had to reveal certain things, like, "Hey, we have this," and it probably led to Bobby Donati being whacked.
Again, I think that there were maybe 5 people tops who were involved in this,
and then there are people trafficking. Maybe not trafficking, but having to do something with the paintings because they can't get caught with them.
Well, I don't even think that they're trafficking them. They're probably just hidden somewhere.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Eventually, they're going to find some old storage locker on, Storage Wars or something. And
it's like, hey, here are the 5 paintings that were stolen from this museum in Boston.
And then they'll have to backtrace everything. But I just think that there's a good chance that all the people involved are not alive to tell their story anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. If you go through the things there, there's very little to do with Vincent Ferrara. He was kind of leading the charge, and then the hint is that the heist was probably to try to get him out of prison. He wound up getting out of prison anyway, and he has stayed away from the life of crime since then, as far as we know. Like I said, but Bobby Donati was murdered. George Reisfelder died of a cocaine overdose. Another guy, Bobby Garente, who looks kind of like one of the guys in the picture, if you can picture him with a mustache, but so does one other guy, so it might not have been Guarente, but Guarente may have been connected. He died of cancer in 2004. So look, right now, the only people still alive, like I said, are Miles Connor and David Turner.
Yeah.
All the rest are gone.
Yep. No, I definitely agree with that. Oh
yeah, and Billy Youngworth.
Yeah. So but in all honesty with this documentary, it's something about it is very sleepy. And I think the more I watch it while I'm interested in the topic, I'm liking it less because it's so sleepy.
Yeah, it's one that's kind of. I love the topic. I want to know more, but something about it is just causing my eyes to close.
I think of all the documentaries we've watched so far, I would rate this one below Q Into the Storm, like way below, because that was my favorite one.
That one was funny.
Mostly. We had like, you even had friends on that documentary.
I had one coworker's news story taken out of context on that documentary.
And you knew the pot people.
I've never met the pot people.
Well, you've had conversations with them. You've exchanged emails with them.
No, I haven't, but I did answer a phone call from one of them.
Okay. But a lot of the like crime families and stuff like that, and living in Rhode Island and living so close to the Massachusetts border in Rhode Island, growing up and listening to mostly Massachusetts radio stations, a lot of the names in the stories I've recognized, like Whitey Bulger was mentioned.
He's dead too.
Yeah. No, but most of these, like the crime families and a lot of the names I have heard in the news over the years.
Yeah, the Patriarcha crime family has had people in Providence.
Yes.
They were led by Luigi Baby Shack Spinacchio.
Yes. There. And so there's like names that I recognize through news stories, hearing growing up and stuff like that, or listening to like Boston radio stations in the morning and hearing their news and recognizing quite a few of the names I've heard. I never had faces to the names or like associations, like knowing like what they were really involved in other than mafia ties for the arrests and stuff like that. But yeah, so growing up in New England, there's a familiarity. Yeah, that word. I can't talk right now because the documentary put me to sleep. But there is that. So there is interesting, and I really think that like if I wasn't a New Englander, I would be less interested in this documentary. I don't think I would have found it as interesting.
That's possible.
Being a New Englander, and yeah. So I don't know. I'm not loving this, guys. Like I'm getting kind of.
Well, there's only one more episode.
There's only 4 episodes of this?
There's only 4.
Okay. So you've got one more.
She's like, I can get through a 4th one.
I think I can handle it. Just not today, because I will fall asleep.
I got to go to sleep, too.
But, yeah. What else you got?
That's pretty much all I got there. Again, because we watched this in the morning, basically as soon as I got home from work, there's no snacks with Sarah. She had breakfast while watching this.
Oh, yeah. I had a bagel. Everything bagel with tzatziki sauce on it.
All right.
And everything but the bagel seasoning.
So that will definitely be the weirdest snacks with Sarah we ever have.
Why? I like bagels. What's wrong with bagels?
Just because of the timing we watch this, we normally don't have bagels.
You can have a bagel any time of the day. Okay, audience, I want you to weigh in here. When is there an inappropriate time for a bagel? I'd like to know, because I think all times of days are appropriate for bagels, and our next snack with Sarah is going to be something to do with bagels.
Okay. But anyway, that'll wrap up this episode of I Watched It With My Wife documentary edition. We've got one more episode of This Is a Robbery to get through, and then we got some movies to watch at some point. We just haven't picked them yet.
Yes. You can find us at With My Wife on Instagram, or With
My Wife Pod on Instagram, at Watched Wife on Twitter. I watched it with my wife on Facebook. You can send us an email at withmywifepod@gmail.com. And we are on Anchor. I watched it with my wife.
And also, if you listen to us on Anchor, there is a spot where you can donate to help keep the show alive. Don't feel obligated to. If you want to do that, you can pledge 99 cents a month and help keep the show going, help sponsor the show. And if you don't want to do that, a better way, an even more fun and better way to like help support us would be to listen to our episodes and share it with a friend, share it with a movie lover, share it with a documentary lover. Probably shouldn't share this with any mobsters because, yeah.
We don't want to get whacked.
I'm on the list now for solving the mystery. No, I think most of them, I really think the few people who knew about this are not here anymore. But yeah, so share this with a friend, share our show with a friend. Listen to our show, like our show, give us a heart, a thumbs up, anything like that. That helps us more than anything. And you can also go to our website, withmywifepod.com, where we have merchandise linked at the top, where you can see I watched it with my wife merchandise, and you can also find information about our other podcasts there. Thank you so much for listening this week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.